Hey, welcome back into today's second video. We're done the video looking at the heat and the storms coming up, well, starting tonight really, in the west, and then becoming more widespread on Friday night, and particularly reaching the peak, I think, through Saturday. Now, if you want to see more about that and hear more about that, check out the Stormwatch page, where you'll find today's Stormwatch update. This video is going to focus primarily on the next 8 to 10 days, which will be taking us towards the end of July, actually, getting towards the end of the month, going up to the 27th, I think, is day 10. It looks like high pressure is going to be around next week, so we can expect it to stay really quite warm, actually. This could be turning into quite a prolonged, sort of very warm or hot spell, to be honest, next week. There's no real sign of a definitive breakdown. We're going to have these thunderstorms developing over the weekend, which will cool things down a bit for a day or two and turn things cooler and fresher, but even then it'll still be quite warm, and there's no real sign of the Atlantic breaking through next week. And of course it's the Atlantic really that's got to break through to properly cool the air down this time of year. Complete contrast to winter, when the Atlantic brings us mild conditions, and it's from the continent that we get the cold weather, or from the north, from the Arctic as well. But in winter it's different. The Atlantic brings a lifting temperatures, whereas in summer it's the Atlantic that's got to break through really to bring a definitive dropping temperatures. No sign of that next week, so I think it's going to be staying quite warm. Have a look at all the charts in a moment. Before I get on the video, though, just say about the advertising. There's video ads on my pages at GazWebBiz.com. You can hit play on the video ad and see what it's about. You'll be helping to support GazWebBiz.com. The video ad really is paying for the website. Essentially, it pays me to talk to you via website. So if you can hit play on the video ad, see what it's about, you'll be helping to support the website. I've had a couple of emails asking about the heat low. I've been talking about the heat low in the video for a couple of days down across Spain. And one or two people wanting to know what the heat low is and why it doesn't bring storms to Spain, but it does bring storms to us and across France. And the reason really is the humidity in the atmosphere. This is today's GFS chart for 6 o'clock tonight. We've got the heat low down over Spain. It's not particularly well defined, but it's already being caused by the intense heat that's over Spain. Have a look at the upper air temperatures. We see we've got really intense heat down there, up to 25 Celsius at 850 HPA. That is temperatures well above 100 Fahrenheit going on through most parts of Spain. You see that heat extends down into North Africa. That is essentially where the heat's being pumped up from, the desert in North Africa. But despite the heat and the pressure over Spain generally being quite low, there's hardly any precipitation to speak of. It's completely dry. And I say the reason for that is the dryness in the atmosphere. These are the dew points. I don't show you these very often outside of winter. They're very important in winter when it comes to working out where it's going to rain, where it's going to snow, but I don't tend to show them very often in summer. But when we've got very high humidity, that's when we start to see the thunderstorms forming. Now, what's going on over Spain, you see here that the air is very dry, indicated by these dew points, these green colours. Despite that it's very hot, it's a very dry heat, and that's because the air is coming out of the desert from North Africa. So despite the fact that pressure is low over Spain and it's really hot, it's not generating precipitation, it's not generating rainfall, because the air is desert in origin, and it's very dry. That's completely different to the other side of the Pyrenees. Notice how the Pyrenees really is the dividing line for this from Spain to France. Once you get over the Pyrenees into France, then the dew points shoot up, the air becomes much more humid around the Bay of Biscay, and of course as soon as that heat low starts to pull out of Spain, it loses that dry air but they've got over Spain from the desert. It picks up the humidity that's sitting over the Bay of Biscay and France, and then the whole thing explodes into life, and you get the thunderstorms with the Spanish bullet. And that's exactly what we've got coming up over the next couple of days. But it really is the sort of desert origin air that is the key to this, for the reason that Spain doesn't get the thunderstorms, despite the fact pressure is very often quite low there through the course of the summer. And people do talk about this, of course, when they go to Spain. They notice that the heat is a different kind of heat to the heat we get in British Isles. The British Isles heat is sort of a muggy, humid sort of heat, whereas the heat they get in Spain is a very dry heat. It's a completely different feel in Spain. Despite the fact it's very much hotter, it doesn't feel anywhere near as humid, and that's because the air is pulling out of the desert. So I hope that explains the heat load to the people that wanted to know what that's all about. Now, just very quick, have a look at the high resolution NAE model. Actually, it's the Euro 4 model. The NAE has been replaced by the Euro 4 just to see that the storms are coming into the southwest tonight. Here we go at 6 o'clock this evening with some thunderstorms beginning to come into the southwest peninsula, and then push northwards then as we go through the night. So really it's for Wales, southwestern England, possibly the south and west Midlands, getting these storms moving up from the south. There could be some quite intense storms mixed in there, particularly to the west, very wet across Ireland and through the Irish Sea. I think there'll be more scattered as they come through Wales and the Midlands, but don't be surprised if you hear some thunder, see some flashes of lightning even tonight across some parts of central and western Britain. As we go on through Friday, those storms will become increasingly confined to the north and west, most places turning very hot and dry, and then it's tomorrow night that things really kick off. This is just about time to come into the high resolution time frame now of the Euro 4 model. There we are at midnight on Saturday morning, and the storms are really starting to kick off then across central parts of England and Wales. But this is just slightly outside the time frame. We'll have a look at this in more detail tomorrow, probably on the Stormwatch page. It'll be very interesting to see how the Euro 4 is picking up on these storms they develop through Friday night and going on into Saturday. Now, beyond that, as I say, there's no real sign of this high pressure breaking down. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts. We've got the ECMWF here on the left. The GFS is over on the right. These are the 8-10 day means. So this is taking us to the period towards the 27th of July, again towards the end of the month. The red colours are indicating below average heights, which are high pressure. The blue colours indicating, the red colours are indicating above average heights, which is high pressure. The blue colours indicating below average heights, which is low pressure. Both the ECM and the GFS indicating a very extensive area of above average heights to be sitting around and to the east and the northeast of British Isles in the next 8 to 10 days. That's a very large, intense area of high pressure sitting to the east of the country. On both the models, the high pressure is very dominant. So we are likely to see a continuation of warm conditions, because the flow with this is that we're bringing up generally a southerly flow around this area of high pressure. So we've got the trough out in the Atlantic, and that will at times be feeding in thundery conditions. It won't be completely dry, I don't think. We'll get thunderstorms coming up from the south and the southwest, but the general flow with the orientation of that above average area of heights is off the continent, so it'll continue very warm, if not hot at times, I think, through the course of the next week. This is backed up by the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're really shooting up over the next couple of days. I say the heat wave is well on course, going to go above 15 Celsius at 850 HPA for a little while. That's very hot air coming up off the continent. Then over the weekend things cool down somewhat as those storms come through, but the red line here is the 30-year temperature average. And notice all members of the ensemble are above the 30-year temperature average throughout next week. Despite the fact the temperatures do drop a bit with the storms, it stays warm, and then that warmth continues through the course of next week. So good agreement, but it's staying on the warm side. Probably not as intensely hot as it's going to be tomorrow. Nevertheless, I think it will stay very warm, and it could get hot at times. It's not until right at the end of the month where we start to see the ensemble members then dipping down towards the red line, and there's a definitive sort of cooling down going on. This is August the 1st, just here, and by then the temperature ensembles are coming back much closer to average. But of course, that's right at the very extended range of the GFS model, so it's very unreliable, but that's the suggestion anyway. Right at the very end of July we could see that definitive sort of cool down, but between now and then temperatures will be staying above average and on the warm side. Despite that, there's a lot of precipitation spikes. These are the spikes associated with the thundery breakdown over the weekend, Friday, Saturday. Few days of drier weather early next week, but late next week the precipitation spikes do come back, and that could be more thunderstorms pushing up from the south and the southwest. Having a look at the temperature anomaly for the next week. This takes us from the 17th to the 25th of July, and we're above average here across the country. Not a surprise at all, having seen the height anomaly chart and the ensembles. You would expect temperatures to be above average. They are above average. It's going to be a very warm week with anomalies up to 2 to 4 degrees above average quite widely. Virtually the whole majority of Europe is above average as well. The highest anomalies are over Scandinavia. You have to go right over the central parts of Russia to find anything particularly below average, and there it is substantially below average actually through central Russia. Looks really quite cool there. So that's where the cool area is. Wherever you've got warmth, you're going to have cool somewhere else in the globe. The weather, or the climate and the weather basically, is looking for an equilibrium. So wherever you've got somewhere warm, you're going to have a corresponding area of cool. And the corresponding area of cool at the moment appears to be in North America and through parts of Asia. Now, having a look at the precipitation anomaly for the next week, and well, we're dry on average up to the northeast, bring those red colours there for eastern Scotland, but most of the country actually coming out a little bit above average with precipitation in those blue colours. Now, that's because of thunderstorms, so this is hit and miss. Not everywhere in that blue area is going to be above average, because some places will miss the storms as ever with thunderstorms and stay dry altogether, whereas some places will get much more rain than this is indicating, much more precipitation, and their anomaly could be anything up to 300% of the average in the coming weeks. So there's going to be sort of vast variations really between the drier areas and the wetter areas across the country. Nevertheless, it's generally overall quite an unsettled week, despite the fact temperatures going well above average. The generic charts, finally, here's the GFS for Tuesday, and the high pressure is in there across the country, dominating weather, so it'll be staying very dry. Those storms over the weekend could rumble on into Monday, but after that, I think they fade away. High pressure takes over, it's very warm again with a lot of sunshine, and then through next week really it's a case of that high pressure dominating. It's up over Scandinavia. The air is generally off the continent, so it's going to be very warm, if not hot at times. Temperatures could still be in the high 20s, maybe up to 30 degrees, 86 Fahrenheit through much of next week. And there's no sign of the Atlantic breaking through. The unsettled conditions are out in the Atlantic, being locked out there over Greenland and down in the central part of the Atlantic. It's a high pressure that is dominant. By day 10, which is going to take us towards the 27th of July, as I say, the high pressure is still there, but there is indications then that things are perhaps turning more unsettled again to the south and southwest. Still very warm, if not hot, but perhaps more thunderstorms coming up from the south. But I think next week is going to be a very warm week across many parts of the country. But I think we're going to be talking about heat wave type weather, to be honest, through next week. Having a look at the ECMWF, finally the high pressure is in across the country on Tuesday. It's going on into Wednesday, middle of next week as well. Actually, it gets reinforced a little bit from the Azores high as we go through to the end of next week. So I think much of next week is going to be dry. There will be scattered thunderstorms around, but I think a lot of dry weather, very warm, if not hot at times. As we get through to day 10, the 27th of July, again, everything's very slack, so nothing really is changing. The cool air is still out in the Atlantic, being locked out with those areas of low pressure. We're in a very warm airflow. Could be turning more thundery again with that, but overall, the idea is that I think we're staying very warm through next week, hot at times, and it looks like summer 2014 is turning out to be really quite a warm one. So I've got these storms coming up over the weekend. They'll be very noteworthy. As we get through to next week, they'll fade away for a time anyway. They may come back later next week and into next weekend. But I think much of next week is going to be dry, very warm, if not hot. And summer 2014 definitely starting to show its hand now, and it's turning into quite a significant one. That's it for now. Hope you found the video interesting. As I say, if you want to know more about the storms on Friday and Saturday, check out the Stormwatch page. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.